ragamuffin keep on rising to the top. Ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. International, what they call me international. When me ride palm with them and I move with the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm with them and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place I with the one Jamal skinny. We are the general. We sit up on the rhythm and over the mic incredible. I'm be right part of the rhythm, move with the rhythm, I sit down steady. Every ragamuffin you do, I feel rock and follow me. You know you love her for your life. Make we jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it. We chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we chop a mic, they call we give it a general. International, what they call me international. When me ride palm with them and I move with the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm with them and then we sit down steady. Body me on the place I with the one Jamal skinny.
Yes, yes, yes. What is going on, everybody? The best producers in the world right now watching this stream. I know it. If you don't know who I am, I'm Joshua Casper here with Plugin Boutique, and we got another developer stream for you today. It's an extra special one. You already know what it is. If you're watching, it's Scalar 2.7. Just got updated literally today, and my good friend David is going to be joining me on the stream. He is one of the co-creators of Scalar, and he's going to be covering everything that's new and also answering any of your questions. A note about that, I am running the stream solo today. Usually I have a colleague in the chat keeping an eye on things. But if you have a question or have a comment, make sure to @Plugin Boutique, please, so I can flag those and we can get them answered on the stream. Now, just like usual, with all of these dev streams, we are going to be doing a giveaway. And the way to enter into that giveaway is just to be a subscriber to the channel, be active in the chat, and just be a positive source. That could be answering questions if you see them, you've got answers for, asking good questions, just being an all-around nice person. You already know what the deal is. But with that, remember, @Plugin Boutique with your questions, please. It will just help me stay on top of everything. I am going to be reading the chat. I'm seeing it now. Everybody's saying what's up, what's good. Where's everybody tuning in from today? I know that David's coming in from Australia. So that's another quick note. It's literally the other side of the world. So if there is any connection issue, it's the stream. It's the limitations of technology. If Elon Musk gets the satellites up in the air a little bit quicker, we might be able to have perfect streams in the near future. But in the meantime, join me in welcoming today's guest, Mr. David Carbone. David, how are you?
I'm very good, Joshua. Poor Australia. She always gets a bad rap for being on the other side of the world. Our internet's good, man.
Upside down, though. It's upside down over there, is it not?
Well, we're down the bottom. Yeah, we are down the bottom. Yes, it's my morning. So in advance, I apologize if I'm a little bit slow. Been a big release, but thank you very much, Joshua, for having me on the live stream.
Everybody, don't be shy with saying thanks to David for coming in. He was in the studio with me in his ear since 6 a.m. his time to try to do the stream for you today on release day of 2.7. David, if you wouldn't mind, why don't you just, for people who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the Scalar project maybe as a whole, and then what we're going to be talking about today, which is the 2.7 update.
Yes, well, I'm David Carbone, Davide or David, whatever people prefer to call me. I'm a composer and producer, and I've been making music for a while. I run Samplify, which is a music production company where we do music for film, TV, video games, lots of artists, and our own music, of course. And Scalar was born just from a need, really, of wanting to have a plugin that helped us musically. I think, the simple premise I always explain was, I used to sit on my 303s before I kind of studied music theory as a junior and make all these cool riffs on my synths, and then where do I go from there? And I always wondered why there wasn't a plugin that you could just feed it that information and it'll come up and say, here's a scale that you're in, and here's the chords that can go. And it was born from there, and lots of people have been involved. And yeah, primarily it's a plugin that's kind of really, the features and the development really comes from when we write music. I think that's probably the difference with a lot of the other bits of software that we use, is that, we only decide on its feature set when we're writing music, and we go, hey, it'd be cool to have this feature, rather than sit down and kind of round table. But yeah, as we're extremely ecstatic. It's been a huge success, and it's just it seems to have touched a lot of people as it touches us personally when we write. It's a little magic piece of software, and we very, very much love it as much as anyone else would love it. So that's the Scalar story in a nutshell, I guess.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it has touched me as well. It's actually taught me a lot about music theory. And, I just would like to say thank you for that, because otherwise I wouldn't know as much as I do today, strictly because I use Scalar so much, and it guides me into learning a little bit about theory each and every time I use it, which makes me an all-around better music producer along the way. So thanks to you for that. What we're going to do, David, if you don't mind, is flip over to your desktop or your Logic session, and perhaps you can just jump right in and tell us what's new in this latest version of Scalar 2.
I can. Yes. Thanks to everyone for joining, by the way. So Scalar 2.7 has, we tried to make it, quite a major release, not only in terms of content, which there is lots and lots of content, but the feature set. I'll run everyone through the feature set, and I'll talk about the content. I thought probably, I know you've done an excellent short overview video, and I've done a longer, Joshua, and I've done a longer kind of 40-minute video. So if anyone has seen that, because I know both the videos are getting lots of love at the moment, this is kind of a continuation of my video, if you like,
Right.
and just a demo of where we can go. You don't need to have watched it, of course, but so to surmise, the main features, the main 2.7 features are the live sync mode, which syncs section C, and I'll just bring up a scalar down the bottom here, and we'll have a quick overview, and then I'll take everyone through. But the main there's a couple of UI changes actually that we probably haven't discussed. The undo and redo we've put on the main page. It was always kind of around in places, but we've tried to make these things more accessible because we're going to be doing so much more in the progression builder down section C. It's just a straight click now to get to the menu up the top. And there's a live sync, which basically keeps all your scalars in sync. And we'll talk about exactly how that works in a second down the bottom. We've also got multi-output, and that's a heavily requested feature from many of our producers and composers, multi-voice output. Now, in the ideal world, you'd be able to stipulate your MIDI channels, and we're going to get there, but we'll talk about how it works, and it works really, really well. We've also got a generate parallel harmony, which basically takes a chord and generates movement, sequential movement in minor thirds, major thirds, fourths, and fifths. We'll talk about that. There's an auto play, which allows us to preview our chord sets, and there's lots and lots of new content. So I'll take everyone through it. Josh, if anyone's got any questions, please do just let me know at any stage.
100%, David. I've actually got one here that's relevant to what you've just gone through with the multi-MIDI output. Obviously, in my video, I briefly touched on this. Ableton Live has dropped the ball in this arena. There are a number of plugins that can utilize that functionality, and now Scalar 2 obviously can. I know that I made a video with Patchworks. I forget the name of the plugin, but there is a premium plugin that allows that to happen in Ableton Live. And I believe, David, if I'm not mistaken, there's an external instrument in the Ableton Live suite that will allow you to do that as well. But Oscar Slap is wondering if you know of any other workarounds for Ableton Live to be able to utilize that functionality with Scalar 2.7.
Well, I'm not sure about the external instrument. I will say that we have quite a few staff members here at Samplify, and one of them is an Ableton certified trainer. He's also was a representative for several big manufacturers, so he's a gun. And I've been hassling and pushing him to find ways around. And even though I think I've discovered ways around, he keeps telling me, no, you haven't. So it's a little bit difficult with Ableton Live. I'm not sure what the external instrument is, but I would assume that that's something that listens into an audio stream, but I'll chase that up. No, it's a bit of a bummer with Ableton, the multi-output. That will change.
Right.
That will change, but we've tested it in Cubase, in Studio One, Pro 6, in Logic, and it works really well. And it's a shame because multi-out is probably thought of mainly for the composers when they're doing something we would call divisi, being able to send out individual voices to certain string sections, which I will demonstrate. But it's really, really cool when you're using it with Omnisphere and you're coming up with, electronically based music. So yeah, it'd be really nice to have more access to it. But Joshua's excellent video for Blue Cat
Patchwork
is a good
Patchwork.
one.
Yeah.
Patchwork. Sorry.
I am pretty sure that I can get it done with Ableton Live's external instrument device. I will, if I can, everybody that's watching, I will get into it tomorrow, and if I can get it working, I will post the video here on the Plugin Boutique channel tomorrow. And if not, then we'll just keep pestering Ableton about it. Someone's wondering if it works in Bitwig. Do you know that offhand, David?
I think we haven't installed Bitwig 4. We've got 3, and we know someone who has used it. Yes, and it's a similar routing setup to Studio One, okay, which I can demonstrate here in Studio One actually during this session. So the answer is I know it does work. I personally haven't used it, but I know it does work, and I think the routing is exactly the same in Studio One, that you set up an instrument. And you create other instruments and you just do the MIDI input from Scalar. Very simple. I can show in Studio One.
Okay. Well, I mean, let's just keep cruising along with your demo right here in Logic, and if we got time, we can jump over there afterwards.
Right. So live sync. So here I've got a bunch of scalars. Now what I'm going to do, just to make it obvious, I'm going to open, I'll open 4 of them on screen so you can see what's happening. But, it's a typical straight up Logic patch. I'm using the internal lo-fi sound. So the lo-fi internal instrument is a new instrument for Scalar 2.7. Yeah, it's a really, really nice sound. And I particularly love, there's lots of new chord sets, we'll go through them, but I particularly love the 80s chord sets. They're really thick and authentic and nice. So straight away, 2.7, this is all unique to 2.7. Yeah, And you can see that I've just basically I've just, copied and dragged those chords down to section C, which is our section builder, our progression builder, excuse me. And you can see that I have DAW sync enabled just by right clicking it. So that means when I hit play in Logic, it will play. Not only do I have that scaler, but I've populated those same chords. Let me just make some sense of this. I'll just move the scalars into various corners so you can see. So that's my first scalar playing 80s 2 chord set with that lo-fi. This is exactly the same thing here. I've moved the chords down the bottom and I am using heavy hitter, and that's in DAW sync mode too. And here I've got a third scalar, which is same chords down the bottom. I've just populated those same chords, and I've got an arpeggio on it. It's also in DAW sync mode, which is basically how we used to run. And then I'm just going to mute this fourth one. And then here I've got a final scalar, or a fourth scalar if you like. And I've got the same chords in section C, but what I've done is I've come into edit mode and I've called up one of the new avant-garde performances. And here in the edit mode, I'm literally switching between avant-garde 1 and avant-garde 2. And that's also in DAW sync mode. So when I hit play, theoretically, all those chords will play. This will play just straight lo-fi chords. This will play the heavy hitter chords. This is all scalars internal sounds. This will play the substantial internal sound with the arpeggio, and the fourth one will play the avant-garde performances. Okay, let's have a listen. I'll hit play in Logic. Yeah, so you get the idea. So they're all playing. Now, previously, if I want to make it, and this is a very typical setup for me, if I wanted to go back to scalar instance 1 and I want to make a change to that section, see, I can do it, and then I usually have to come up into the sync mode, sync all scalars, and I can sync the sound, I can sync the articulation, the scale, only the progression builder. Which is cool. So normally I'd go progression builder only because I don't want you to touch all the individual settings on the scalars. But now we've introduced something called live sync, which is really useful. So in the sync menu, down the bottom, you'll see live sync progression builder, and it will sync the chords, the voicings, and the timings. So let me explain that. So if I say, okay, yep, can we select it and start live sync? That's now put everything into leader follower mode. So you can see here that the leader, the scalar instance 1 is flashing as leader, and instance 2 is following, instance 3 is following, and instance 4 is following. So what that means is theoretically I can now make any changes to the leader and the others will follow. Let's have a look, and I'll just come into the main page so we can see all the chords. So let's say, okay, cool, I've got that set up. Now I could make individual chord changes, which I'll do later, but just to really jump off straight away, I'm going to go and change the chord set and go to the next chord set. Yeah, and what I want is the articulations, I want the arpeggio, the avant-garde performances, and the other sound to just follow. So if I drag these chords down into section C in the leader, you can see all the others populated. And because I'm in DAW sync mode, I just hit play. Yeah, it's really cool. It's just such a great way to experiment. So I could come into 80s 4.
David, I have a question.
Yes.
So we're looking at, before you made that change there, we're looking at 4 instances of scalar, and I know that chords are color-coded. So if it's blue, it's in the scale. If it's, can you run me through what gray and light gray are just real quickly?
Yeah, light grey means that it shares some notes of the scale, and dark grey means I'm miles away. I don't share any notes.
Okay, so can you tell me what's going on with that bottom right scaler? Why on the other two are they all blue, but then on the chord manager down there at the bottom, those are all gray and light gray? And how does that affect the output of the sound?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So obviously somehow inadvertently I had selected a scale in section B on this avant-garde performances. It generally won't affect it. We're not live syncing section B because we're really wanting flexibility. We want you to be able to create different scales and kind of have a little bit of dissonance or create augmented chords and give you that flexibility. In the future, we might say, okay, sync the selected scale, and of course you can. You can come up to scaler and you can actually sync that scale. I could stop the live sync here, sync the scale, come back into live sync. It's entirely flexible. But yes, here, because they're performances, they only really play the notes of the chord. So here we're safe. If we were going to, say, be using phrases, that would probably want to interpret the scale a little bit more. And here I have come out of a different scale. Why it's in E flat minor, it's a good spot from you. It's probably because I was noodling about before and I had it in a completely different scale. You can see that the scale of these chords is C major. So most of the time it's really not going to matter. But if you're using anything particularly melodic, you probably want any follower to be in the same scale. Most of the time it shouldn't matter.
Is there a way to deselect the scale, or can you manually change the scale to make sure everything is?
Yeah, you could just you can just come into scale and you can just choose whatever you want. So I could say, okay, you said I'm in C major, I'll come into C major, and boom, there I am. I'm in C major.
Why is that still gray then there at the bottom, or it hasn't been updated yet? Or yes, it has. Okay, now everything is. Okay, I'm getting it. Cool.
Yeah. So we're trying to give everyone flexibility, and the thought pattern here is that when you're writing, you're generally not going to extremes. I mean, this would be a pretty extreme thing to do. So, if I go 80s and I pull this one down, you can see now I'm in a completely different scale. Now I'm in E flat Lydian mode, but it won't really affect the other scalars. I hit play. Everything still sounds right. Yeah, so what is it doing and what does it include? There's a few things really to point out. Firstly, it includes everything in section C, including the door sync, and you can see that if I turn that door sync off, all the door syncs are off, okay? So nothing's playing when I'm starting and stopping.
Oh, wonderful.
It also includes the bind, which is really useful because now everything is bound. So now I can, you probably can't see my keyboard, sorry, but I can come down to the keyboard and where am I? Sorry, I'm on the wrong channel in Logic, I think. Yeah, I was in the wrong channel in Logic. Okay, here we go. So, so you can see me playing through these chords. It's actually playing through all the chords. If I had MIDI keys, I would just, they would all be following those MIDI keys. So, so it does that. It also does everything in the, if I go into the edit page, it does everything in voicings and timings, but not performances. I'm going to explain that in a second. We don't want performances because I want to be able to, as per my scalar instance here, I want to, sorry, I'll go back into DAW sync mode, nice and easy on my leader. Yeah, and I might just turn off the bind. In DAW sync mode, I want, in live sync mode, I want this 4th scalar instance to keep playing that avant-garde. Let me just solo it so we can hear it. So yeah, I don't want these settings changed here. So we purposely say don't sync playback performances because we do want to be able to change different unique playback performances. But chord voicings and playback timings, we're going to assume that they should always be concurrent across. So if I unsolo that and come back to the first scalar and open everything up, you can see here, let's say I want to do an inversion. So I'll grab all the chords and I'll invert them down. Now they will all follow. Yeah, it's really nice. And of course the octaves work as well. So if I put that inversion back and go up an octave or down an octave. So, okay, I want to just go through, some of the other methods of using the live sync. So anything can become the leader, obviously. If I was to come into, say, that 4th instance, I could come into sync mode and I could stop following and I could make him the leader. So anyone can stop following. And on that, I wanted to show you an example of why you might want to stop following. So let's say, let's say I want to add a 5th scalar. Now, on this 5th scalar, I'm using a bass patch, okay? And the chords are quite high, so the bass is going to be quite low. So if I solo it, yeah, you can hear the bass is low. So I want the octave to be higher. Now, I simply can just remember this guy's a follower, he's following, so I can just grab him and turn him up. Now what happens, turn the octave up, what happens is you'll see a message come up and say live sync stopped. So live sync in this 5th scalar instance has stopped because I've made a change, so it's clearly the user intention that I don't want he or she doing what the leader is doing. And that's fine, that works, because now, it's kind of in the right place. Okay, so let's say I want to change the chords. Now let's just bear in mind that our 5th instance is now not following. So let's say I wanted to change the chords. I could come into suggest mode, and this is really the intention. You could do anything here. You could change inversions. You could
switch the order.
Change the order. Yeah, change the order. You can do anything. One thing you can do is you can edit chords, which is really cool, but you can also come into suggest mode. So let's say, I kind of think it's a bit weird ending so high up. So let's say I come into suggest mode. I'm in the leader, come into suggest mode, and I'm going to suggest from the F major because I want it to take my whole chord progression into consideration, but launch from here. And I'm going to turn minimize movement, and I'm going to just look for a chord that, is a bit lower. And also, if I close this, I can see that the 5th, the dominant chord there is the B flat major. So it kind of makes sense to finish there, so I can come back to the root key. So back into suggest mode, And yeah, suggest from the F major here. And yeah, I like that. Sounds low. So now when I update it, it's going to update everywhere except for that bass patch. So I'll turn the bass patch off for now, and we'll just close it. And you can hear everything else is going to work great. You can see everything will do that final chord. Get to it. Our final chord. Yeah, beautiful. Worked really well. Okay, problem, got that bass patch is out of sync. Not an issue at all. I think I just basically need to come back in and I can ask him to follow again. So I can come into sync and I can say, oh, could you follow because I made a change. Obviously, I could just drag the chord straight in, export the state. There's many things, but I just make him a follower. He's now followed. Well, we remembered what we did. We just moved the octaves up. It comes back out of live sync and everything's synced up.
Dave,
yes.
I think I've got a question. You just said drag and drop the chords in. Can you drag and drop chords from one instance of scalar to the other?
I'd have to speak to the developers. We used to be able to. Why don't I try it live for you? I think something. No, you can. Sorry, I'm going to just rephrase that. You can, but you can drag entire chords.
Okay.
So that's a MIDI detection way. So you know how we can detect MIDI? I can drag an entire chord set and detect the MIDI, and it will populate, but it won't do. It will replace the chords.
Gotcha.
So we can't move one from one slot to another. Good question.
I've got a bunch of other questions. I think it'd be a good time just to stop and bang some of these out if you don't mind.
I'd love to hear some questions.
All right, everybody who's come in a little bit late, welcome to the stream. I'm here with Davide Carbone, the co-creator of Scalar and Scalar 2. Scalar 2.7 just came out, and that's what we're focusing on today. If you have any questions for him or me, just at Plugin Boutique in the chat, and we're going to try to get them answered on the stream. So DJ Finesse is saying they would love it if you could fine-tune the strum or fine-tune note positions in a chord, like offset or something along those lines. Is that possible?
Yeah, I think the strumming is probably one of the more strong word, but disappointing performing features. It works, but I mean, if you look at some really good strum engines, like the Native Instruments one, they're brilliant. Now, part of the reason is that strumming is quite complex in that you can downstrum, upstrum, and we've got those, but they work really well when you're using an external instrument, but that's where Scalar's internal instrument will probably fail, and that's because we haven't really had the room, and there's always users who are a little upset by the amount of or the size of Scalar and the instruments that we have. But if we were going to have proper multi-sampled instruments, I mean, if you look at a proper strummed guitar patch from Native Instruments, it's 20 gigs,
yeah,
13
massive.
gigs.
Yeah.
So there's always a compromise. Yes. Overall, I would just say I always talk of Scalar still being at its nascent stage. It's like, in the average lifespan of a human being, it's probably 18, So there's lots of development in that area and a lot of other areas to come. So yes, that is definitely something that we will improve and focus on.
All right. Speaking of evolution and growing, you've recently released is it an iPad app or is it available on the iPhone? B Jammin since birth is wondering if it's available on the iPhone.
It is not available on the iPhone. I want some evolution there to fit the iPhone. I'm not a big believer in just, okay, let's just put it on because we can, because then it's just not usable. So the iPad app, took a while to develop because it was really about taking advantage of the real estate. It is available on the iPad. We're going to the update, by the way, the 2.7 update for the iPad has just been approved by Apple. So in the next few hours, we will launch it there.
Brilliant.
And there will be something coming from the iPhone. I've got some pretty clear ideas of how that would work. So it's just about getting it to work. iPhone and Android.
That's brilliant, because Rod Phillips was wondering when, or if these updates features were going to go to the iOS app. So that's wonderful. That's good news. Tony Thomas Music TTM is asking if there's a roadmap to being able to import your own samples into Scalar. And I'll just say, Tony, check out external instruments and routing from Scalar to those. That will do exactly what you're after without having to bring samples directly into Scalar. Did chord name annotations in MIDI drag and drop get fixed? Russell Cameron Thomas is wondering. So chord name annotations? I'm guessing yes. If you drag and drop out a C major triad, it labels the MIDI clip. Is that, I'm guessing? I'm not entirely sure. He could be, he or she, sorry, I missed who it was that made that comment, could Tony. Be relating to numerous things. There has been some improvement in the naming convention, but it could be numerous things he's referring to. Is he referring to the slash chord interpretation? Is in the inversion? I'm not sure. A little bit difficult to answer that question, but I don't know of any bugs in that area. There's just, when you're using a music theory plugin and you're dealing with so much information. Theory is interpretation. I think most of our users appreciate that. So how do we interpret things? We try and do two things. We try and interpret things a way that's useful to a composer, and we cross-reference traditional music theory to try and find that balance. I think that makes sense. Reginald K. Sun is asking, or first of all saying it's a brilliant plugin, and wondering if there's any way you can get it as a MIDI effect in something like Studio One, where I believe how it handles MIDI effects in the UI is a little bit different. Is there a roadmap for that?
Thank you, Reginald, for the feedback. Reginald, we've been using it in Studio One Pro 6 perfectly. I don't think we need a MIDI effects. It's just so easy. You just create a channel and then you just create other channels, and it's brilliant. It's really good. Studio One 6 is a really good piece of software, I must say, and thank you to the developers for supporting us and sending us over some software for us all to use. We've really enjoyed using Studio One 6, and if I get a chance, I'd like to show you. But it's just, you literally just create an instrument, you go scalar, you create another instrument, you go input from scalar, bang.
Done.
Very easy.
Nice. Someone named DM is wondering, does the user chord set import function work in this version? They can't get it to work in Scalar 2.6. Do you have any idea what that's about?
I didn't know that it didn't work in 2.6, but I know the developers have made some fixes on import. So where's my change log here? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the issue.
Okay, that's fine.
Fixed door timing, play quantise. Remember the last mix undo, clear undo. Clear undo when clearing or when importing a state file. Not sure. Can't answer that question.
Gotcha.
Obviously, there's the Scalar forum, which I think most people know, and that's a really great place to ask those questions, because we have thousands upon thousands of extremely nice, helpful users, and those types of questions are ones that people really like to devour and answer.
What's the URL for that site for people who are looking to check it out?
forum.scalarplugin.com.
Nice. One last question before you continue from Corey Mumper, and that is, has there been any significant updates to MIDI or audio detection in the more recent updates to Scalar?
MIDI detection is shoot me down, but it's perfect.
Yeah, it's difficult to get that one wrong.
So yeah, it's difficult to get that one wrong. Audio detection, great question. I always say the king of audio detection is Melodyne. So let's give Melodyne 100%. Where's Scalar compared to that? it's somewhere between 20 and 40. I vacillate between being highly critical and being mind blown. And I think we had Tristan here at Samplify did a fantastic guitarist video, and he was really blown away by using his electric and acoustic and how well Scalar picked it. What am I saying? I'm saying it's not perfect. It's almost impossible to get perfect. Could we improve? 100%, absolutely. That is a priority. Lots of great things on the horizon there. That's all I would say. The audio detection will improve significantly, yes. But no in 2.7.
Awesome. I think that's a decent amount of questions to get through. And if you want to continue your demo, I think that's the right move now.
Love to, Joshua. Thank you.
You're so polite.
I'm not usually when I get waken up at 5 o'clock in the morning, Joshua.
That's my fault. I owe you a beverage.
That's okay. I think you shouted me a beer when I come over to see you in Brighton anyway. So I think sync mode is fairly well covered. It's really nice. It works really well. You can come in and out. As I said, you can come back to the leader. You can come into sync mode and you can say stop live sync overall. And then you could choose selected scale, Joshua. I'm going to try this for the first time. Never tried this before, but just to kind of go, yep, choose selected scale. Can you see what happened there? They all went blue. Are you happy?
Well, wait. I feel attacked now. I feel attacked. No. I mean, yes, absolutely. I knew that was there. I was just a little thrown off by the colors. The colors were getting to me.
No, people will be. People will be. So I think it's important. I think it's important to demonstrate the flexibility, and that when something's quirky in Scalar, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of decisions being made in the back end whenever you're doing something, and lots of different algorithms being kind of cross-referenced. So we've tried to really cater for that flexibility. So there I live sync, and now I can go back into live sync mode and you're away. So really flexible. We've all been using it in composition. We've got a couple of big video games on here at Samplify at the moment. We've been using it every day. It's been absolutely fantastic. So that is live sync.
Quick question about live sync before I move on. Stephen Sheehan is wondering if live sync works with pad mode.
Does live sync work with pad mode? Yeah. Oh, yes. So that's a very, very good question.
Shout out,
Stephen. Yeah, that's a good question, Stephen, because should we try a few things now?
Yeah,
let's
100%.
hope this works. Okay. That's a very good question. I know it does, but I'm going to go. I've chosen a different chord set, so this is all crazy, and I'm going to add chords to a new pattern. Okay, so now I've got 3 patterns, and if I select them all and bind the leader, yep, they're all following, so that's really good. So now let's go into pad mode in the leader, and let's just see what happens in pad mode in the followers. Bang!
Really? Wow.
Well done, Stephen. That's a good question. So yes, I know it did work because I did an 80s chord set which created a second pattern. But now let's go. Let's try something. Let's say, okay, I'm going to move that over here. That moved. Yeah, that's really powerful. Yeah, that's really powerful. Because it enables us to just keep not only just one chord, but as we know, we can call these verses. Actually, that'll come out of live sync. There you go. So I should have done that here. And then we can go verse, etc. And you can see they'll all have that. This guy dropped out of live sync. We know doesn't have follow because we made changes. So we just simply bring it back in live sync. Yeah, good question.
Amazing. This is a question that comes up on every stream that we do, David. So don't ticket. I know you're running a machine. You told me the 192 gigabytes of RAM, which is more than any one human should have. But the question always comes up, especially when we're talking about having multiple instances of Scalar open, perhaps Scalar running, controlling multiple different instruments. Can you speak to how Scalar handles CPU and RAM consumption in general? Like, is it performing very well in those arenas, or?
Yeah, I think the developers done a good job because we've seen some improvement in CPU performance in 2.7, and I mean you would expect that as the software is around for a few years that the CPU performance improves. We don't find it a problem. So in these studios we have several Macs from. We've actually got we've got one room that's got a 2013 iMac i5. Works really well. We've got a couple of PCs, and we've got music and Scalar being used in all the rooms all the time. And it's never really been brought to my attention that it's an issue. Obviously, if you're in MIDI, you're using a MIDI effect and you're using a big contact instrument, then there can be issues because you're using other external third parties. But I think CPU wise, it behaves really, really well. And I think it's not a CPU hog at all. I really don't.
I would agree with you there. I had doing my 2.7 video, 4 instances of Scalar running inbuilt sounds, and I think I was ticking 8% maybe on the CPU meter in Ableton Live. So the developers have done a great job in that area, I would say.
Yes, I think they have. Yes, yeah, and that's good to hear, Joshua.
Nice. Keep going, man. Let's see what else is new.
All right, let's move away from live sync. Yeah, I think we're covered with live sync. It's really, really cool. We will take, just to end on that, we're going to turn it over to the users now who are going to be using it for a while, and we're going to ask them for feedback. And I know that you felt that you kind of gave us a good bit of feedback that, well, if the scales do need to be updated, is there not an option to update section B? And that's something that we might do.
I think maybe if I had, this was another thing that I'm going to bring up. I hope you don't mind. With live sync, obviously it's doing everything related to the C section of the plugin. It would be great if I had maybe like the sync options you have where you check and then sync one time. It'd be great if live sync had sort of the check marks, and I could say I wanted to live sync this, that, and the other thing, and exclude these things, and then I would have a little bit more control myself over what's being live synced and what's not. That's just a feature request for me on the spot. Hope you don't mind.
You know what? It's a victim of its own success, isn't it? Scalar was just this little thing. It's become this little thing, and then from all the branches come other branches, and then your feature request is something we've already thought of. It just makes absolute total sense. But you're branching out, which is great. But generally, we have found bring something in, let the users kind of respond, then let's go there rather than try too much. And it's worked so far. But yes, I think clearly that's a good idea.
All right.
Right. So let's talk about multi-out. Multi-output, and I'll just explain very quickly for those that might not be aware of why you would need it. It's been really something that our top higher-end composers, particularly those that are scoring for film, have asked us because they use Scalar so much, but it's a dead end because I then have to figure out how to split my voices elsewhere. Now, proper MIDI out implementation would be awesome if you could have a drop-down menu. Scalar throws out a MIDI out. You could use that as an import. You could change the channels. You could, I think we have to bear in mind, without sounding defensive, is that it is a $60, $50 plugin, and it does so much. So, often when you talk about a Divisi, there's a good Divisi program. It's $400 on its own. So, I'm not trying to sound defensive, but we've come up with a really good solution. And I think I've got to thank one of the users on our forum who kind of suggested this way, which had been an area that we'd always kind of wanted to go towards. But it works lovely. And then the reason you want divisi is because when you're playing a chord, you want to be able to say, send the bass note to that instrument, send the mid note to that instrument, send the there, and there. And particularly works with orchestras. So here I've got a scalar, and I'm going to pull up a contact patch. Scalar is controlling that contact patch. It is muted, and it is muted. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Yeah. Now, if I was going to let's come into songs, and let's go divisi 4-part. So these are chord sets that we've done specifically to work with a 4-part multi-out. I'll explain how multi-out works in a second. But if we come into a kingdom, and let's say I bind it, and I'll go into sustain here so we can. Now, whilst that sounds nice enough within itself, the problem here is this is a string ensemble, so already the patch includes, say, 30 players. Now, when I'm throwing a 4-note chord, it's playing 120 players completely unrealistically. So what you want to be able to do is say, oh, well, there's 4 notes to that chord. Can we send them out to different areas? And now we can. So just note that this MIDI, this is done in contact, but you could do this, depends on what program you're using and how you're routing. It's different everywhere, but most of the DAWs will allow you to just, contact's really good because you can just specify different MIDI inputs. So is Omnisphere, so is many other software. But you can also route. Studio 1.6 is really, really good because you can just actually choose which MIDI channel you want to go to. So now if I say I'm going to mute this, and now I'm going to call in a patch, an individual patch. I might just go, let's call up the symphony series, and let's go a string ensemble, and I'm going to call up basses, okay? And contact is correctly said, oh, well, the next available MIDI channel is MIDI channel 2. That's good. In Scalar, right now we've introduced multi-out, and you can get to it by coming into preferences, and you can see we always had the MIDI channel you could specify, but now we've got something called multi-voice output, and here we just turn it on. Now you can make that the default. I haven't, because I'm still demoing Scalar, and I want people to understand that it needs to be turned on. Now, what happens is this, is that when I play a chord, so here we've got A, E, C, and G. So what will happen is, I'll just mute that new patch. What will happen is the entire chord goes to MIDI channel 1. So that first MIDI channel 1 is receiving the entire chord. That's cool because we can keep doing what we want to do. But the individual note of A goes to MIDI channel 2. The second note in the chord, which is E, you can see there on Scalar, goes to MIDI channel 3, and so forth. So C will go to MIDI channel 4, G will go to MIDI channel 5, and if you add more notes, it would go to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that clear?
I believe so, yeah.
Good. So let's just see it in action so we can understand that a little bit better. So according to what I just said, the note of A there in that chord should go to MIDI channel 2. And if I mute that original string ensemble, now open the basses, which is what I just loaded, and play that chord, yeah, it's just receiving, so I'll just play it on my keyboard. Yeah, it's just receiving that first note, which is really great. So now I'm going to instrumentalize it like an orchestra, let's say. I'm going to go cello, and I'm going to pull up the Blackus cello, which is lovely. And contact is automatically going to put it into MIDI channel 3. Obviously, I can change this. So now it should be receiving the E. Yeah, it is. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, great. So again, if I just keep carrying on, I'm going to introduce a viola, which would be next in line, and I might get Native Instruments' beautiful Amati viola, and If we look at the MIDI channel, it's been introduced in MIDI channel 4. So again, yeah. So we've got the note, the bass note going to the bass patch, the cello going to the second note going to the cello, the third note going to the viola, and top of the string section, the king of the strings, although I wouldn't say that that's particularly accurate, is the violin. So if I spell correctly, I think I know how to spell violin. Yeah, let's pull up, let's go Joshua Bell's violin. It's beautiful.
Great name.
These are solo instruments, okay? So I purposely haven't pulled in ensembles. I could have pulled in ensembles to make it sound more like the first patch, but now I've got a really intimate, yeah. It's just, I got to say, it is
It's
absolutely
amazing, David. Like what's coming through the stream right now is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's heart-wrenchingly beautiful. I hate to wax rhapsodic, but it really is. But it's the experimental nature. And what I really love is whilst I'm showing a very typical orchestral example, which composers will really love, this is as much about electronic music as it is classical or orchestral or scoring. And you can just use anything. Like we've pulled it into Spectrasonics and put arps and sequences and basses, and it's just mind-blowingly flexible and wonderful. Now, the 4-part Divisi chord sets are all beautiful, and I'll show you some other examples. But if we go to sad ending, one of the things to note is this really is beautiful for me, and I think some of the top higher-end composers would probably really appreciate, is that scalar will cut, when I'm playing chord boxes, scalar will cut one chord off from the other. It has to. We can allow multiple chords to be played, but that would be... So what that does is that doesn't allow slur legato between instruments, and some of these patches are made for that. They sound beautiful because the violins slur, they slur up in pitch. But actually holding one chord and playing the other, whilst the chord is being cut off, the patches are recognizing that I'm legatoing those and they are slurring. So it just has inadvertently worked really well. Now, you can do anything. Obviously, you can continue to add. So we could say, okay, I would actually like an ensemble for the violas, or I would like some extra woods. Okay, so here we go. Woods are right here. I'm going to pull in a wood ensemble, and I'll go flutes sustain. And here come the flutes. Now it's put it up to channel 6, but I can now come in and I can say, actually, I would like the flutes playing the viola line. So that was 2, 3, 4, 5. It was 4. So now the flutes will respond to that. Yeah. So that they'll respond to that. And you can, of course, it can be anything, can't it? So you can go, we could go, let's get the outstanding, I'm just showing native instruments here, but, we'll get the outstanding Farlight.
Lots of great contact instruments on pluginboutique.com.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. A great place to get them because you get all your fantastic rewards too, don't you, Joshua?
That's right. Lots of rewards. And
I like the rewards.
Yeah, the more if you really like a contact instrument, let me know and we'll get the developer on stream. And we'll get them a copy of Scalar so they can we can do this again.
I like all contact instruments, Joshua. It's they're beautiful. So if I come back to the snapshot here, so I've introduced Farlight, which is kind of an orchestral one, and I'll go, all is full of voices. Sorry, I'm not playing the chord. Yeah. So so they just respond. Now we've done lots of different things in here. We've got, we've put in a few kind of familiar, out of copyright chord sets that we've taken liberties for. And yeah, they're just lovely. Now I'm just gonna demo a little trick, which is really, really cool. Here I've got a 4-part, but obviously it could have been an 8-part chord, and I could have made an 8-part orchestral patch. But what we realized inadvertently is that if you select any chord set at all, so let's just be random. Let's go to one of the new hip hop ones, shall we? Let's go hip hop 11. Now, to take advantage of this patch, it kind of needs 4 voices. But if I turn voice grouping on, the first profile is automatically set to 4 voices. So that means you can literally, with voice grouping on, that setup will now respond to any chord. Let's go to Coxie, and let's go Carl's. Yeah, so that really enables you to just use the multi out with any chord, because particularly if you're using 4-part. I'm going to throw it over to you. I'm sure there's probably a few questions. There may be a few questions about it. Joshua, you might have some questions.
I have been answering questions as they come in, and we're good on the question front if you want to keep rocking. I think you mentioned there were some new hip-hop chord sets. Did you already mention the other ones as well? I think there's classical, if I remember correctly, something else.
So there are, let's go to a new scaler here so we can just quickly demo, point out what they are. So,
if you have questions for David, make sure to add Plugin Boutique in the chat and we'll get them answered. Also, if you don't have Scaler yet, today might be your lucky day. We're doing some giveaways at the end of the stream. To enter, all you need to do is be a positive force in the chat and you'll be entered to win. I'm working on my radio voice, David. What do you think about my radio voice?
It's really good. I quite like it. And I like the way you kind of get under the mic too, because that's the way they used to say you get bassier under the mic.
You gotta give them the full frequency, otherwise what are we doing?
I do like that, Joshua. You are, as I mentioned to you in my email, genuinely, you have approached celebrity-esque status. You're not quite the celebrity of some of the ones I know, but you're deserving.
I appreciate that. With your help and your guidance and your support, we'll get there.
I love it. So if I just reset this, clear the state on this scaler here, I'll just go through quickly what is all the new stuff. So we've got the lo-fi sound, which we demoed before. We've got an orchestral bass patch. It's really nice.
Which we actually briefly talked about. Even though that is an orchestral bass patch, it actually does sound really good in chord format. It's not like amazing.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah, a lot of the basses do actually, sound nice. It's intended as an orchestral bass, and it's intended to work with the bass performances, and they work really, really lovely. I was actually using the orchestral bass sound in that first demo I did of Live Sync. So if I come back up to lo-fi, we've gone through the 80s chord sets. They're fantastic. The Divisi 4-part chord sets, we just went through there, the orchestral one. There were a few hip hops, but we've added, I think, 10 new hip hop chord sets. They're really, really lovely. Hip hop is one of those funny ones because it's not actually that harmonically moving. And what is hip hop anyway? But they're really great, assigning to the right sound. Yeah, we've kind of made the progression for them to really mimic what happens in hip hop. Classical, we've added a bunch of classical chord sets. They're great. if we kind of try and cheat the system, as Joshua mentioned, and use the orchestral bass patch, and we go classical, let's go 13 as a random. Yeah, really nice. We've also got, I want to talk about fixed bass in a second. By the way, this is probably a good opportunity for me to talk about what autoplay is. So normally people come in and they hit the play button. And if you're like me, you generally like scalers chord duration to be long because you generally write one chord per bar or, so forth. But that's really annoying when you're trying to audition. So you have to click and play through. Well, what we did is we came up with an idea to have autoplay, which means it would just play through things quickly and it'll just keep playing. So you can just cycle through. So let's say I was to go, back up to classical 6 and I'm going to hit autoplay and I'll try not to talk so you can hear it. And then what I'll do is I'll just flick through chords and I'll flick through the sounds and you'll see it'll just keep working. So if I right click, it'll go quickly. Yeah, so I think what I was trying to demo there is, that's right clicking, by the way, is that it just keeps playing. So it has such a huge time saver than having to go back into that silly menu and back out and play. And am I clicking? Yeah.
So you're saying it supersedes whatever you have as your default playback rate and allows you to just preview things very, very quickly without having to get into the settings and change it and then doing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it really does. One of those silly little features that actually ends up saving you so much time.
Game changer.
So what else have we got? We've got the avant-garde phrases and performances. I'll come to those. Yeah. Okay, let me I always like to clear the state. I don't know why. Felt piano, I think it's just easier. Felt piano. So in performances now, just quickly, performances and phrases, because I know we're kind of going to be coming to the end of time now, but performances and phrases. Performances are, for those of us that might not know, based only upon the chord. So here I have a C minor chord, which just has C, E flat, and G. And the performance will only play the difference between performances and phrases. Performances will only play those notes. Okay. And phrases will actually go further. Phrases will add melodic content. So all of them are made by pianists and composers here at Samplify, and the avant-garde ones were made by someone here. And what we really wanted is we wanted something a bit more experimental, so not as straightforward. I'm using the felt piano, so it'll sound quite classical if you like, but this will only play the chord.
Hey, David.
Turn it up a bit.
Okay. All right.
So now if I go into, so they're still the performances. By the way, just while I'm here, not to digress, people have always been kind of a bit, I'm just going to turn the performances off. They get upset that scalar can be loud when you click on it, as opposed to if I play on my keyboard, but when I click, they come out loud. And there's occasional users who are like, why does it come out so loud? Well, what we've actually got is a scalar UI velocity. That's new in 2.7, okay? And there's probably going to be 2% of people that are so happy that that's in there, because you can now set the default for how loud these chords sound. And you can see I've got mine low. Whereas if you had it at 127, you can see it's a lot louder. Yeah, but you can say, oh, I want it. You can see there it's clicking lower. Okay. So a lot of people are going to like that, I think.
Can we, David, before you move on, I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
About defaults. Is there a way to turn on or set humanize both as a default?
No.
Okay. Also, is there a way to set DAW sync as a default?
No.
Okay. I would love both of those as a personal favor to me, David. If you could have both of those in there, that'd be great.
We'll get there. We'll get there, Joshua. I rather than rank it at 127, I'll rank it. I'll just give you bonus rank points. Okay? No, I'm joking.
Well, I appreciate that.
The DAW sync. I mean, yeah. I don't think anyone suggests a bad idea. But there's got to be over 100,000 people that use Scalar, and so there are thousands and thousands of people with ideas. So,
David, but I'm me. You know what I mean?
No, I know.
And I'm the center of my universe. And
I know that. I know that, Joshua, because every time Scalar comes out, you ring me and hassle me and go, no, it should do that and should do that. And then I'm like having to focus on you.
That's not true. That's not true. I say nothing.
You love it.
But I sing your name and the name of the product from the rooftops each and every time I get to talk about it. I'm
joking. You're fabulous. And I love your new videos. They look amazing. I've got up my game. So here we go. If I go avant-garde, the phrases, I particularly love the phrases. Sorry, what am I doing here? If I come into phrases and I come into avant-garde, these are also new. Phrases will interpret the chord as a pianist would. So if I just hold that C minor. Of course, you can go up. Yeah, they're really gorgeous. I really quite like how they sound in the lo-fi. Let's say avant-garde phrase 2. Yes, a lot of melodic movement. Of course, you can just go into major. So check them out, the avant-garde phrases. They're really beautiful. I just love making a chord set, and as I did in the sync demo, I used those. They just work. They're very different to the rest of the stuff we've got there. They just work really, really well. There's also sequenced. There's new sequences. Now I would like to refer people to my video. I think if you just look at YouTube Scalar 2.7, you'll probably see Joshua's and mine. There's a really nice demo of scale-based sequences. The scale-based sequences were originally intended as kind of mood sequences because they're quite moody, but then we worked out that they work really, really well when you lock them to the scale so they don't move and you play the chord underneath. There's a really good demo, I think, on my video. And that kind of covers the content. I want to just look through, finally, before we kind of finish up, I want to look through fixed bass because I think that's another real fun thing. Oh, and generate parallel harmony. Any questions before I quickly go through those two, Joshua?
No, by all means, continue on, my friend.
Okay, I'm going to clear the state. Generate parallel harmony. That's a really good one. So just so we can hear it, let's hope that this is not too loud for you. I'll just reset that volume, Joshua. And I'm going to go C major. Yeah, that should be okay. I'll just turn up there. Right. Any chord that you bring into section C, generate parallel harmony. Now, we used to only have the semitones, but what we've done is we've really revised how this works. So generating parallel harmony means same chord, but going up in minor thirds, major thirds, fourths, fifths, or fifths dynamically voiced. So it will say, we'll replace your current progression. And now you can hear it across section C. And it's very, very common technique for composers to do that. I'm going to undo, see if that undo works. It works perfectly, which is great. I could go up in minor thirds as well. I did just go up in minor thirds. You could go up in major thirds. One of the things that I really love, which we kind of discovered serendipitously, I think is the word, by accident or random, is that if you go up by fifths and we apply the dynamic voicing, and Joshua, I noticed that you noticed this too. You said it was your go-to in your video. Is that we just went, well, if you go up in fifths, many of the chords will be different, but if we keep the voicing the same, it's just amazing. And as I've pointed out, like, you know, it's just, you can have endless fun with the generating the parallel harmony. And if you were to select them all and detect them, you can see that it's nowhere near a scale. It's the closest is C Lydian. So it's just a fantastic way to come up with unique chord progressions.
It's important,
and of course,
David,
you could
if you mind me just jump in here, that it's okay that it doesn't fit into a particular scale, right? If it sounds good, that is all that matters. And what we're doing here is allowing people to essentially stumble upon maybe just unheard or really less known progressions that sound great in the context of any particular project they're working on.
Yeah, well, one of the annoying things about Scalar is it has to follow something. So it follows Western harmony and rules. But Western harmony and rules is a bunch of people that went, this is what sounds good with this, and these are the rules that you should follow to make everything sound good. Well, the great composers don't do that. And so with Scalar, we've always had to follow the rules, but we try and have this ultimate flexibility where you can just do what you want. And of course, yeah, that's the whole thing about the modulation pages. It's just so many different ways to go anywhere. And all the great composers all have their own method. And I think Scalar can mimic those. But yeah, so if let's say we come into the, you know, as an example, come into the circle of fifths and I go F sharp minor and, you know, say, oh, that sounds lovely, and bring that down and generate parallel harmony. I'll go fourths this time. So that's some random chord. And I'll just bind that area, sorry. But yeah. Now, a couple of things to note. You're going up in fourths, so you're clearly going up the octave. If you're wondering why it doesn't keep populating, because we just didn't want it to be stupid, so we kind of went, when it goes into C5, get rid of it. Going up in fourths is quite common. If we turn the voice grouping on again, you can just turn the voice. It's just beautiful. And then, you know, remember, it's just so lovely because you can come back in and go, oh, that's a really cool chord progression. Where could I go from there? And you can suggest from here, minimize the movement and go, you know, oh, great. And it's just such a another fabulous way to have endless fun making extremely unique chord progressions. And it's the penultimate thing that I'm going to demonstrate before we finish up. But it's just really opened up Scalar. All these new features, I think, really have opened it up. Joshua, any questions before I show my final thing?
People are adding Plugin Boutique, but really it's just showering you in Scalar with compliments, David. So please do continue.
Well, thank you. And I would like to take this opportunity to say, to be honest, I kind of, as a music producer and composer, I've always wanted the adulation, and I've won many awards and I've had adulation, but it is overwhelming, the love we get for Scalar, and I will never ever take that for granted.
Literally changing people's lives, David. It's amazing.
Yeah, but I'm not cocky about it because it touches me, as I said, as much as it touches you, Joshua, and touches everyone else. I use it every day. My life has changed because of it, so I'm as appreciative for all the people involved that have made it happen. Final thing, fixed bass chord progressions. What does fixed bass chord progressions mean? Well, if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But when designing content for Scalar 2.7, I always find that, several styles of music that we might try and imitate. Let's pull Coldplay for a, good or bad example. Tend to have a style where the bass just stays on the one note and they move chords around. And I wanted us to have a kind of bunch of chord sets that mimic that because, our chords generally move around. So we've come up with this fixed bass chord progressions. And what happens is if I just hover over, can you see that the A gets highlighted there? And no matter where I go, the chords keep changing, but the bottom root note stays the same. So to really demonstrate that well, what I've done is I've created a contact patch and I have added prime bass, which is a bass instrument. And I've added electric vintage. Now, what works nicely about these two guitar sounds is prime bass is monophonic, so it's just going to take the bottom note and just play it on the bass. Well, that's perfect. That's what I want it to do. And electric vintage is going to play the whole chord. So now, if I'll leave contact open so you can see, and I will. I will unmute it so you can hear it. Okay, good. All right, so the bass note stays the same. I think that's the important thing to note. Okay, and that is not happening. And why is that not happening? I'll tell you why that's not happening, because I'm bound to section C inadvertently. And I was following too. Right. As I had a bunch of scalars opened all in my Logic project and they were all following. Right, okay. I'm just going to turn that up a little bit. Tell me if that's too loud. Okay, so you can see the bass is staying the same. And that means that, for example, I could change this, electric vintage here. I could go road trip, And they're all the same. Basically, the bass stays the same. Yeah.
Hey, David, I got a quick question about that.
Yes.
If I use that incredible force into scale feature when I'm using a fixed bass preset, will it keep that fixed bass or will it change it?
Well, that's a good question, because in voice grouping, it'll change it because voice grouping moves the voices around. So if we were to say force into a, what scale are we in? I don't want to push it too much. It says we're in C major. So let's force into the scale. Let's go a Mixolydian. I always say Mixolydian, by the way. I always have, but I'm going to force it there. I think it'll stay, Joshua. So here we go. Yes, it has stayed. That was a pretty good test there, because I went from a major into a Mixolydian. So yes, you can. Yes,
Fantastic.
And it'll stay.
Absolutely. So folks, we are wrapping up the stream. If you've got any last questions for David, please at Plugin Boutique, and we'll try to get them answered here while we're wrapping up. And we're also going to be giving a couple of copies of Scalar away. David, while you were doing your incredible demo, I ran a poll and asked, do you own Scalar 2 already? And we've got a 70-30 split with 191 votes saying 30% of the people don't have it yet. So I think we're going to give a couple of copies away.
Wow.
Yeah, let's change some lives. Let's get the future music producers what they need, because I'm always in the what's that?
I think you're much more generous than a 2 type of guy. I think you should give 30 copies to those 30 people.
Well, it's 30% of 200, David. So
fair enough.
Yeah, we gotta. We are running a business in but we can't change supply. So listen, if we're gonna do the giveaway in a second. First of all, hit the like button if you haven't already. It should just be natural at this point. It does help. We like these streams. I like doing these streams. I think you like watching the streams. So do everything you can to help us promote them so we get more viewers, so we can do these more often. But that being said, if I call your name in a second and you already own Scalar and you're still here, at me at Plugin Boutique, and let's try to get Scalar to someone who doesn't have it already. If you do win, though, it is going to be 100% yours. But if you already have it and you feel like paying it forward, let me know in the chat, and we'll try to get someone who doesn't have it already a copy. Does it sound okay? Does this sound okay with you, David?
Sounds good. And I want to say just on these live streams that Joshua is so fussy about presenting the highest quality audio and video that he makes you come into the studio 5 times over and spend 10 hours away from your family and children to abide by his very pedantic system to have the highest quality audio and video. So he takes immense pride, and you're doing a great job. Thank you very much, Joshua, for having us set up and making it sound and look, which I hope it sounded and looked good.
It sounded amazing. The audio is coming through absolutely pristine. I think we've got everything we needed for the stream today. So I'm going to do what I've got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 15 random names of people who are positive in the chat throughout the stream, David. And what I need you to do, let me see how many likes this has. 337 likes. I'm going to give away 2 copies of Scalar, okay? But if this goes above 360 likes, I'll give away, 375 likes, I'll give away 3 copies. So, David, yeah, you want to keep going? You more likes or more copies of Scalar?
Both.
I'll tell you what. We're not getting all the likes aren't coming as fast as I would like. We're gonna give. Well, you know what?
How do I like?
Yeah.
How do I like?
David, you got to go on YouTube.com. Type in Plugin Boutique, and you'll find it's okay. So, David, tell me your 2 favorite numbers between 1 and 15.
3 and 7.
3 and 7. 3 and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. David, we're going to give him just one. We're so close to 375 likes. Oh, we've done it. We've passed it. So we need one more number between 1 and 15 outside of 3 and 7, David.
15.
15. Oh, nice. All right, we got 3 lucky winners. Remember, we're going to stay online for a second. If you already have Scalar and I call your name right now, please do let me know so we can pay it forward. We've got some other people here. 30% of the people watching who are nice enough to vote in the poll don't have it yet. So let's try to get this to someone who doesn't have it yet. So winner number 1, Jeweler the Rocket. Winner number 2, Rod Phillips. And winner number 3, Benjamin LP. Congratulations. Your names have been chosen at random for being a positive force in the chat, and you win a copy of Scalar 2. If you already have it, let me know, please. It'd be great to pay it forward. David, while they're letting that sink in, and I'll see if I get an ad from those winners, thank you very much for coming on today. Thank you very much for waking up at 5 a.m. your time. Thank you very much for the 10 hours of just hardcore testing that we did ahead of time for this. Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love hanging out with you. I love Scalar, and I love that you've come on and imparted your knowledge and wisdom that has to do with this incredible product and plugin.
Joshua, thank you very much as usual for having me. Thanks for all the efforts that you put into. I really appreciate your time. And thank you to all the people involved, all the developers, all the composers. Thank 100%. You to Plugin Boutique for doing such a great job. And I really want to thank the users too for their constant input and love. We hope that we can always continue to improve, and we're looking forward to the feedback. Join the community if you've got any feedback. We'd love to hear it. Thank you very much. I'm off to get a nice croissant.
All right, everybody. If your name was called, you are a winner. What we need is you to email support@pluginboutique.com with your screen name, what you won, and a screenshot of you logged into your user account here on YouTube with that screen name, and we will get you sorted with a copy of Scalar 2.7. David, let me know when the next update is out, and we will do this again. And with that, by all means, start your day. I'm going to go to bed. Everybody who tuned in, thanks a lot. I'm Joshua Casper here with Plugin Boutique. That's David Carbone, and we will see you in the next live stream.
Ragamuffin keeps striving in every way. International, what they call we international. When me ride palm rhythm in the move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down steady. 40 men on the place, I with the one Jamalski. We are the general. We sit up on the rhythm and over the mic incredible. I'll be right palm rhythm and a move, but the rhythm I sit down steady. Every ragamuffin you do, I feel rock and follow it. Jump up on the rhythm, make we ride it right. We chat up on the mic and keep it international. Cause anytime we chop a mic, they call we give it a general. International, when me ride palm rhythm and I move, but the rhythm and I come down crucial. And me ride palm rhythm and then we sit down.